Hello, and welcome to Easter Seals, Exceptional People, Exceptional Lives. I'm Dr. Cameron Hodgins, Vice President of Programs and Services here at Easter Seals Southwest Florida. Joining me today is Nicole Murby, the Director of the Lilly School for Child Development. On today's program, we're focusing on our Lilly School for Child Development, but before we do, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Easter Seals, especially if this is the first time you're watching our program. Easter Seals has been in the Sarasota and Manatee community since 1946. We are proud to serve over 700 families a year in programs that span the lifetime. We have programs that serve children, birth all the way to adults and the aging population in our community. When we speak of our pediatric programs, the first two that we've had for the longest are our Children's Therapy Center, where we provide early intervention services, speech-language services, occupational therapy, and developmental programs and teaching families how to work with their children who have disabilities. Our other pediatric program is Project Rainbow Children's Respite. We provide respite services in our community to children birth to 18 who have a developmental disability and to their siblings who may be in the home. We do that 4 hours a week, 3 weeks out of the month, for maybe a total of 12 hours to every family that we serve. And we also have a drop-off respite at our Easter Seals campus once every second Saturday of the month from 4 to 8. When we think about the lifespan, these children obviously grow up to be adults and go through some teenage years. So we do offer a program for adolescents at Easter Seals called the VIP Academy. It is a partnership with Manatee County School Board. We provide vocational education and training to our high school students in our county, really 35 of them from Manatee County high schools, who really are focusing on vocational skills rather than educational goals. And so naturally we focus on how are they going to get a job? How do we write a resume? How do we use internet safety? How do we use public transportation? Those things that maybe you and I take for granted but are really important for our population to know about. Moving forward from the adolescent age, we're looking at our adults. Obviously, like I said, these children do grow up to be successful adults. And we have an adult day training program at Easter Seals. It is the largest daily, day-to-day program that we provide. We have about 120 adults who come to our center on Braden Avenue near the airport, Monday through Friday from 8:30 to approximately 3, and they engage in various activities across the community. We may go on outings to parks, to rec centers, to today actually we were at an ice cream social down in Venice held by the Therapeutic Recreation Department, Sarasota County Parks and Rec. We do a lot of celebrations. We love to eat and have food and cake, and we celebrate everything. And our philosophy kind of is that life should be a celebration, and that's kind of how we live at Easter Seals. It's a really great experience. I encourage anybody from the community who's watching today who may be interested in our programs, even as a volunteer, or you may have some donations, or you're cleaning out your closet. We are always in need of supplies. We definitely have needs for the children all the way through the adults. If you have anything to donate, please contact us. I know that our contact information will be on at the end of this program. So we're really excited to be in the community. We've been here a very long time, and as most nonprofits, of course, we depend on the support from our community. So your support and your attention and your interest is most appreciated. So now that we have sort of covered the span of what we do at Easter Seals, and we are quite an ambitious bunch, and we have recognized a need for to add child care services to our programming, and we will be opening a child care center August 20th called the Lilly School for Child Development. People have been asking us why the Lilly School, and for those of us who, for those of you in the community who don't recognize our brand, the Easter Seals stamp that you will see connected with our brand, in the middle of the stamp there is a lily, and that's our flower that sort of represents the work that we do, and so that's where the Lilly School name comes from. So with me today is our director of the Lilly School, Nicole Murby, who's also the director of our Children's Therapy Center, and is a speech-language pathologist by training. So we are very, very fortunate to have her on staff with us, and very fortunate to have her step up into this large role of responsibility. So Nicole, thanks so much for being on our program. Along with telling us about the Lilly School, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, thank you, Cameron. You've described what I do. I've been with Easter Seals now for 5 years, and I've been the director of the therapy program for 2. I am actually from the Northeast. I'm up from New Hampshire, and I've been down here in Florida for 7 years now. And since then, we've had 2 children. I have Gavin and Grace, and you know, it's been a wonderful time down here in Florida. But as far as the Lily School goes, the school itself will be an inclusion model, and we will have children with that are typically developing, and then we will have children also that are differently abled. We are opening the school for children from the age of 6 weeks to 5 years of age until they go to kindergarten.
And that's really important for families, especially in today's economy when, you know, families barely have time to take off of work, or women to have children. So we really are serving those youngest at 6 weeks that we can to provide that relief for families who may really need an immediate return back to work.
Back to work, yeah. I think at the last statistic that I saw, it's 70% of women now are actually working and need some type of child care.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a need in our community for a child care facility, but specifically one that works with children with special needs as well. Additionally, what's special about the Lily School is taking both of the programs that I'm the director for and kind of fusing them together. Because children with special needs also need early intervention. They need, might need speech therapy, occupational therapy, an infant toddler developmental specialist might come in and work with them. We plan to see those children and make it an intensely therapeutic school. So it won't just be the teachers teaching the curriculum, it'll also be weaving in therapeutic goals throughout their day as well, and that's their natural environment. They're at school for more than 40 hours a week oftentimes.
Right, and I just want those of you out there to know that for children with disabilities, how critical it is to A, identify the disability as early as we can, and B, upon that identification, really getting in those therapies. It's crucial. And you know, I think the public often ask us, well, why Easter Seals, or what makes it different, or what if my child has a disability that's different from that child's disability? Sort of doesn't matter in those very early years what the diagnosis is. And Nicole and I were speaking about this today. And you know, if it's autism, if it's a language delay, if it's Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, and of course we see that all of those a lot at Easter Seals, that early intervention piece is critical, and so much so that our national office out of Chicago has launched a campaign called Make the First 5 Count, which means make those first 5 years of development really impactful in a child's life, where you're receiving those services that you're describing at an intense level every day, sometimes all day. And for those of our little guys who are on the autism spectrum, the more therapies they're receiving, the better. So we know that is the sort of the goal of this Lily School program for these children with delays, is to really maximize and emphasize how critical those therapies are. There's a statistic that the $1 that we spend on a child birth to 5 who has a delay saves $10 in their education down the road. That's huge, especially in a time and in a state that we live in a budget crisis, and especially for education. Those are great statistics that I think the early childhood community here is really rallied behind, and I'm really happy to see Easter Seals step up into that area too.
Right, I used to be a speech language pathologist in the schools as well, so I would see some of those children come in that hadn't had the early intervention versus the children that had, and you know, it's hard to tell because you didn't know all those children when they were much younger, but there's a huge difference. Yeah. And of course, like you just said, financially, there's a large difference as well.
We were talking about autism, or I mentioned autism, and of course it's a major buzzword right now for families. We were talking about 1 in 57 boys diagnosed right now, 1 in 88 children. Those are CDC numbers of last year, or most recent numbers from CDC, the Center for Disease Control out of Atlanta. That is truly an epidemic in our country, and actually we're seeing it globally. How do you feel like the Lily School is going to meet the needs of children on the autism spectrum?
My first thought on that is the intensity of it. That's the most important. Having teachers and having therapists working together to provide the best environment that that child can learn in, and giving each other strategies. The teachers that will be working at the Lilly School are going to be, well versed in knowing what the therapists do and what their goals are, and we're going to do a lot of teaching of each other. So I think children that are on the spectrum will hugely benefit from the tools and the kind of the tricks that we have and things that we can use in our experience working with children on the spectrum.
And we have a friend named Shelley Fritz.
Yes.
Yes, tell us about Shelley.
Shelley works for the ABA network, and so she, I think, almost exclusively works with children on the autism spectrum. She is going to come in and help us work on some of the behavioral aspects with the children individually, and I know that they even do work with entire classrooms and help the teachers figure out the best way to run their classrooms so that we're minimizing negative behaviors, and that the kids are all working towards the same positive goal.
Great. And for those of you out there who are not as familiar with characteristics of children on the spectrum of autism, one of the major issues that they struggle with is sort of being around peers and being around their typical peers and integrating within children's play. Those are things that Shelley and her team can help us with. And ABA stands for Applied Behavior Analysis. And currently, that is not the only treatment approach for children who are on the spectrum of autism. However, it's the most empirically validated approach, meaning that in research, we find that it's highly effective. It's not the only modality that Easter Seals embraces or believes in, but it's definitely one that has really good statistics behind it, meaning really good outcomes for the children. So that's why we have chosen to partner with Shelley and her team.
Yeah, with ABA, I think that it works really well with our more severe children, with the kind of type of therapy. But I know that they adapt a lot of some of the ABA therapy to meet that child's needs.
Sure.
So it's not, as if the child would come to the school and we're just doing ABA therapy and we're doing discrete trials, and that's not appropriate for that child. So we're not going to do that. We're going to figure out a way to maybe use some of those strategies, but change them so that they fit that child.
Correct. And there's two other really trendy educational modalities for children with autism. One is called TEACH and one is called DIR. And DIR, it's an acronym, but what you do is actually sort of get into the child's world, meaning if that child is on the floor spinning wheels of a car, guess what you're doing? You're on the floor spinning wheels of the car with him or her and trying to get what we call in the field joint attention, so that they're paying attention to what you're doing and you're paying attention to what they're doing. And then we're building social skills on just hooking in that attention, which for a lot of these children is a huge accomplishment. You're talking about children who don't maintain eye contact, who have very limited verbal skills, and who avoid peer interactions or even adult interactions. So that's huge. TEACH is a strategy out of North Carolina where the idea is to mold the environment to better rein in the child's attention. So if that's sort of working in a center or in a cubby space where you have really, you're sort of focusing their attention into an area just by the visual field, that's another way we can help these children really sort of learn some skills. I don't, and like Nicole had mentioned, blending those models is probably best than just describing to one, but we look forward to hearing from families what's been successful with their children, what hasn't worked, and of course, we always say at Easter Seals, the families are the experts, and I think we do a great job really listening to their feedback and their input, and even in your clinical therapy center, these children literally change week to week. So that feedback from the parents is crucial because, Johnny wasn't doing this last week and guess what? Now he is, and that's great because then what do? We build another skill on top of that gained skill. So that's what we call scaffolding, and that really helps us push the children to achieve the goals that they need to do. And those will all be implemented at the Lilly School. Now, speaking of goals, and we've talked about our children who may have delays or disabilities. We are very hopeful to have children also who are typically developing, and what's your vision, Nicole, about how we make sure that both the children with the delays and those without are really growing at the same rate, or at least growing and meeting goals?
Sure. Every child is going to have individual goals.
Perfect.
There's you know, you have to do it that way, because in any classroom, there's children that are really, you know, meeting the benchmarks, and then there's children that, you know, need help in certain areas. And it's not just children with special needs. I mean, there's typically developing children that have some strengths and weaknesses as well. So we will be looking at each child individually. They'll have their own goals. The curriculum will support that, and it will kind of forge the way and give us the direction that we need. And then there will be certain benchmarks that all children age 1, 2, 3, 4 will need to meet. It also incorporates VPK goals as well, and so that we're meeting those goals. And the curriculum that we plan to adopt and use is Beyond Centers and Circle Time. It's approved by the Early Learning Coalition, and it was written by the Department of Education. So they really honed in on all the goals developmentally and academically children should be meeting, but especially for the voluntary pre-kindergarten.
Great, great. We're really excited about that. As you know, Nicole's your speech language pathologist, and speech is often a family's first concern for a child who may be exhibiting some delays. You know, we know in the field that children should at least be using a few words by age 12 months, by age 1-year-old, and a lot of times we don't have families coming to us until 18 months, 24 months. Oh, he or she isn't talking, and of course that for us is a major red flag. We're hoping that as a community, as pediatricians and those folks that are also seeing these children, that we're picking up on those things, like I was saying earlier, as early as possible, so we can really maximize that speech and the occupational therapy and just the overall functioning of the child.
I think that once, you know, a child isn't talking by the age 18 months, the big thing that comes about when they're not talking at that age is behavior as well.
Yes.
And that's a huge problem for, you know, families, because the child isn't talking. They know what you're saying, but they can't communicate what they need. And you know, waiting till 2 years of age is really too late.
Yeah, it's too late, and a lot of families do tell us, oh, he's so frustrated all the time, or he's angry, or he's hitting or throwing
biting,
things.
and
And one of our first questions is, well, how well is he speaking? Oh, well, he's not, and it's a major cue to us that that's a problem. I mean, for those of you out there can imagine how frustrating it is to not be able to communicate, and we see that, and fortunately, and this is going back to that making that first 5 count. Children's brains when they're young are just like sponges. If we can get in there and really teach some skills, they learn quickly if you can get right in there and do it. So even if they haven't been speaking for 18 months, with some speech services, within 3 or 4 months, usually we can make tremendous progress if, of course, the IQ is there too. So.
Right. I've had multiple families tell me that early intervention has changed their lives,
Yes.
the dynamic of their families. You know, I often go back to the speech part of it, because I'm a speech language pathologist by trade, but they've come to me and said, you know, he wasn't talking 2 weeks later. Your ITDS, infant toddler developmental specialist, came in and showed me a few things to do, and he's talking. There's the behavior is gone.
That's wonderful. And Nicole's mentioning infant toddler developmental specialist. We are a provider of the state's Early Steps program, where we see children in their natural environment, either at daycare or home or grandma's or McDonald's, whatever is natural for them, and provide early intervention services to birth to age 3.
I think one of the most exciting things about the Lilly School is that we're going to be able to fuse together the academic part and the therapeutic part, and we'll be able to make such a huge difference.
Correct.
For that child. It's not just that we're going and visiting the family too, but we're actually even being able to do it and observe and say, hey, you know, little Joey, you know, remember you have to do that for him too as well. So
It's great.
It'll be really good.
And I'm really excited, and at the beginning of the show I had mentioned Project Rainbow, our respite program. That is something also that these families would have access to, who have children with delays, to be a member of our respite program as well, which is also a wraparound service is what we're really doing for these children. So it's not just a child care center. We really are doing everything we can to maximize the well-being of the entire family family is really kind of how I see it. It's not just the child, but you're really, like you said, you have families that tell you this early intervention changed our lives. That's kind of our goal and our vision here.
It is to support the families, to educate the children, give them therapeutic services, and also give them a break through the respite programs so that we can support them all the way around.
It's perfect. Now, funding sources for the Lilly School, we've we've talked a lot about that.
Yes.
The childcare industry is expensive.
It is.
And so we've been talking about funding. Tell everybody how we're planning on funding ourselves for this.
There's a few ways. Of course, private pay is the first one that we would use, but we also are planning to partner with the Early Learning Coalition and be able to place some children with special needs into our program, and it's subsidized through the state, so they would actually help us pay for some of the some or all of the child care for the children. We're also pursuing grants in both Sarasota and Manatee County to help pay some tuitions as well.
Right, and a national grant opportunity that we're pursuing is Easter Seals nationally has a great partnership with CVS pharmacies, and we are in need of an infant playground. And let me tell you, playgrounds are expensive.
Expensive. They can be really expensive.
Especially ones that have to have covers on them. So we absolutely would cover the infant playground to shade them from the sun, especially in this neck of the woods, right, in South Florida. So we are pursuing a grant with CVS to fund a playground for our tiniest tots. So we're excited about that. Other specific items we may be in need of. I know we're setting up our classrooms right now.
We are.
And we'll do items in need, but also we open August 20th. We have an open house on August 16th from 4 to 6:30. And we're looking forward to marketing ourselves more to the community for the Lilly School, and we are enrolling right now. If you're interested, we have our enrollment forms ready. We are excited to get people in our services, but to the items that we need, I know bookshelves and tables and
tables, chairs,
clean area rugs, and
some nice big rugs for circle time that we can put into the rooms.
We have enough books. We've had a lot of book donations, so our kids are going to be well read. But and things like I know we run into in our adult program is just like diapers and wipes and gloves and those kinds of tissues, paper goods. Those are costly for us nonprofit people who have to purchase them on a regular basis, and we need them every day. And go through a lot of them, especially with the little ones too.
Right, and even for some of our families, having a stash of formula donation.
Correct.
If you have some and you don't need it, if you wanted to bring that by, that would be excellent as well.
It would be perfect. So we're really looking forward to this. I think Nicole and I, feel that this really maintains within the mission of Easter Seals and who we have been for our community. We look forward to growing and really look forward to meeting families' needs. Is there anything else you'd like to add for our community to just really know about Easter Seals or the Lilly School in general? Nicole is the mother of a child with special needs, and I think that alone brings just so much a wealth of knowledge and experience and interest and passion, which I think is really important in the work that we do, into this role for you.
Yeah, I was a speech language pathologist before I had Grace. Grace is my daughter, who's 4. Grace was born with Noonan syndrome, and it's a genetic disorder that happened for whatever reason, but she's been through a lot of intervention, early intervention, all the different therapies, and has been educated in a setting that has been something that has made huge differences for her. And so I aspire for us to also have a program that can help children with special needs recognize their own abilities too, and to be able to access the same things as their typically developing peers.
Perfect, perfect. Really inspiring, and I'm really proud of the team we have at Easter Seals and the journey that we're on right now to make our programs even bigger and better and meet the need of the community. So
yeah, it's been a big, huge team effort,
and
it's ongoing.
Right.
And we're a few weeks out now, so there's a lot to do, but we have a plan, and it will be open on August 20th. I'm thrilled to just be part of something that I think is going to be a significant impact in our community. So.
And such a high quality service.
Yeah.
With an agency that has a great reputation in the community for meeting the needs. So very proud of it. So great. In closing, I'd like to thank Nicole for being here today, and Easter Seals thanks METV for providing us with this opportunity to inform our community about our Lilly School. Please contact Easter Seals if you would like to become more involved. We have the information on the screen, and we look forward to hearing from you. So call us at 941-355-7637. You can visit our website and our Facebook page. We welcome and appreciate your support.